This is the Snake Pit. We're at Cairn Park, Sydney, Australia, home to the La Perouse Snake Show, the longest continuous running snake show in the world. I am Aileen, and it's my absolute pleasure to work with Dr. Tom Exner. Tom is the inventor of the dilute Russell Viper venom test. This is the most commonly used test for lupus anticoagulants. So from the Snake Pit here at beautiful La Perouse to the Coag Lab, the next few episodes of Tea with Tom will focus on snake venoms and their use in laboratory reagents.
Hello, I'm Tom Exner. Today I want to speak to you a little bit about snakes and their venom, because that really is behind the core of our business, as you would see from our website, where we have a very attractive looking snake decorating the screen. Snakes come in various sizes. You can even eat these. And there are many different types. Some snakes contribute venoms which have very significant medical and diagnostic applications, particularly in blood clotting tests. Our favourite snake is the Russell's Viper. As shown here, it's that one there. Russell's Viper was discovered or first reported by Patrick Russell back in 1796 in India, where it is actually the most deadly snake they have. It's one of the big four, and it kills thousands of people each year in the fields. Russell's Viper venom was found very early on to clot blood very effectively. And in fact, Burroughs Wellcome had it in 1 milligram vials, and it was used by people when they cut themselves with shaving, which was common at that time, with a cutthroat razor or whatever. So when you bled, you would dab yourself with Russell's Viper venom, and this would clot the blood very quickly. It was called Stipven as a trade name, and I started my research using that Stipven material from Burroughs Wellcome. Russell's Viper venom mainly contains an activator of clotting factor 10, and it was used for this purpose already in the 1930s and 40s. It was also trialled for monitoring warfarin therapy. In more recent years, it's become the most popular test for lupus anticoagulant, which is a marker for antiphospholipid syndrome, recurrent fetal loss, and a marker for thrombotic risk. And there are huge quantities of this reagent that are used in the world. We've actually estimated that 2,000 litres a year of a reagent is used by laboratories in at least 20 million tests around the world each year. We worked out how much venom is actually in this amount of reagent, and it turns out that 0.2 grams or 200 milligrams is probably an underestimate. It's probably an overestimate, I'm sorry, of how much venom is actually required. The venom is that potent that so little is actually needed for all these tests. Russell's Viper is a protected species in India. It's covered by the CITES treatment on endangered species, and you have to be very careful when you're handling it. One snake closer to our territory, that is in Australia, we claim to have the world's most venomous snakes. And among these, the Taipan venom has recently become useful in tests for lupus anticoagulant also. Although it may not pick up as many, it may be more specific for some types of lupus anticoagulant. Australian snake venoms generally activate prothrombin, and they are useful for research on prothrombin, for measuring its concentration, its activity. Interestingly enough, the prothrombin activators actually contain some sequences, some amino acid sequences, which are identical to human blood clotting factor 5 and clotting factor 10, which is the reason why they require variable amounts of cofactors in the activation of prothrombin in a clotting test. Another snake which has become very useful in diagnostics in coagulation is the rattlesnake, the American rattlesnake, Ankistrodon contortrix is a very common snake in the US, where it's regarded as a pest. However, its venom can be used, or an enzyme extracted from its venom can be used for activating protein C. And this is a part of an anticoagulant pathway called the protein C pathway, which is abnormal in about 5% of the population, and which contributes to a thrombotic risk, mainly because of a defect in factor V called factor V Leiden. So these are the three main venoms and snakes which are of importance, but there are many others. For example, eccarin is an enzyme from the saw-scaled viper, which is another one of the big four actually. Eccarin is used in tests for thrombin inhibitors such as Hiridin or for dabigatran. Reptilase is another enzyme widely used in coagulation laboratories for clotting fibrinogen, and there are lots of others that have very interesting applications. So I should end with a joke, shouldn't I? Okay, what do you call a snake which is 3.14 meters long? Of course, it's a python. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, see you later. Bye.